Let's go, FPL Fantasy. What is up? That was the longest, most boring international break I think we have ever had since I started playing FPL. We're back. Game Week 8 preview. You see it on the screen. My man Doc's here. We're ready to go. We're fired up to get some points. Doc, what's going on with you, my man?
I had a green arrow last game week, so I'm happy about that. So transferred, but like it's like 6 million game week rank, and I still got a green arrow. But I'm happy to be back. I'm wildcarding. I'm excited. I'm going crazy because of tinkering all this week. Price changes are still happening, but not happening in the same time. So let's get into this episode. Let's talk about game week 8. But before that, we have to talk about game week 7.
Yep. So I got your team on the screen here, Doc. Game Week 7. A little bit of a rough one, but like you mentioned, Green Arrow. Well, what happened this game week? What's going on with your team here?
I sold Jesus and I brought Mitrovic because Mitrovic was projected to rise in price. I had 2 free transfers, which I'm gonna burn this game week. So that's the only transfer I did. I wasn't planning to wildcard, but things happened, postponements happened, and I saw the benefits of wildcarding, and I'm gonna wildcard. But yeah, I did 1 transfer, and I'm gonna burn 2 this game week.
Yeah, yeah, I can see why you would probably wild card out of this Game Week 7 team. It's not too bad, but yeah, pulling in 0 points on the game week, still getting a green arrow, that's cool.
Yeah, let's hope so. I'm having my doubts. I actually had my doubts for the past couple of days. Like I should have not wildcarded and all those kind of things. But again, we'll get into my team by the end of the episode at the next segments, and we're gonna discuss it more. But yeah, like I'm having my doubts, but the button has been pressed, and we take it from here.
All right, so getting into my team for Game Week 7. You know, Henderson had another tough one. Henderson really not bringing in the points like I had hoped for. He's been having a rough couple of weeks. Holland captaincy, total blank. But Salah did too, so not really sweating it too much. Green Arrow, kind of like you. I know that you said you had like a 6 million rank. My screen ended up saying that I was number 1 in the world for game week rank, so I'm really excited about that. First time I've ever been number 1 in the world. I'm 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 ecstatic. Unfortunately, it didn't get me too big of a boost this game week. Everybody really pretty close to one another, it seemed like. Doc, anything about my team, or do you want to get into game week 8 thoughts?
Yourself and the other 6 million people who got game week rank 1, you should celebrate. And let's get into game week 8.
All right, so first off, talking about some thoughts looking at game week 8 and trying to go into planning how to manage everything. Let's do captaincy first. So, captains, what are you looking at for captains there, Doc?
Well, the obvious choice, Haaland cannot stop scoring, cannot stop returning. Champions League, Premier League, it doesn't matter. The man will return points. So Haaland is probably, definitely actually the main captaincy choice. He's going to be probably 190% effective ownership, but you have Harry Kane, you have Son if he's looking like he's going to play. If you want to kind of hope Haaland blanks and you want a differential as a captain, I think those two are kind of, let's say, Spurs asset or Haaland are the two most popular captaincy is going to be, but it's going to be a huge difference between. I would expect like Kane or Son will be around 10% captaincy, and like majority will just captain Haaland. I'm most definitely captaining Haaland. We'll talk about it in my team selection, but I don't see the point of going against him in this form. It's just ridiculous form.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I'm sitting right at the same thought as you. You're looking at Kane or Son as your 2 and 3, and then Holland is way ahead of him, about 1,000 miles. I think I was listening to FPL Focal or Let's Talk, one of the two, yesterday, and they said that Holland might break his captaincy record that he set, a few weeks ago. I don't think that it's too unreasonable that Holland wouldn't break that record again for us during this FPL season. Let me say, if you haven't seen Holland's goal against Dortmund, you gotta watch. Next topic let's talk about. This is kind of a big one. Free hit versus wildcard. Now, Doc, I know that you already alluded to the fact that you've wildcarded, let's get into that. Why did you decide to wildcard over free hit? Do you think there's validity in a free hit?
So actually, someone DM'd me this specific question yesterday, and I answered the following answer. I'd rather wildcard now over free hit. I think free hit will be extremely valuable later on in the season because I think Ben Krillin even mentioned that there is a possibility we're going to have a double game week where all 20 teams might play 2 games in a game week. There is this possibility, but also with those postponements, there is a possibility we can utilize it even better. And I think it's more valuable to do it in, let's say, double game weeks or blank game weeks later on. That's reason number one. Reason number two is your team goes back to your game week 7 team if you free hit now in game week 8. And I had a look at it, and game week 7 teams do not really look nice in game week 9. So having this team coming back for you in game week 9 is not favorable. So for those two reasons, I think free hit, and also another reason, a third reason is you have to use the wild card before game week 16. So technically, wild card is dispensable rather than the free hit. Free hit, you can just go with it whenever you need. So you have to use your wild card now, and it's better to use it as early as possible to maximize kind of the amount and the length of time that you can target with this wild card with. So we have what, 8 game weeks left until game week 16 until the World Cup. So you might as well just look at those fixtures and wild card now rather than just what are you gonna do? Like free hit now and wildcard, like best probably next time is game week 12 or 13, probably 13. So you give yourself 3 game weeks to get the points from the wildcard, and I think that's a bit too short. What do you think about that, Joe?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on most points. So I think for sure the free hit is it's extremely valuable this year, once again, like in seasons past. I think we have a little bit of tunnel vision as managers because last year we got an additional free hit and we're looking at it and we're like, yeah, free hit, like whatever, we'll just use it. Not thinking that that's your only one. You don't have two. And it's extremely valuable at the end of the season. Like you had mentioned, double game weeks, it's the best thing you can possibly do. I mean, obviously, wildcard is good too there, but if you're just trying to attack very specific short range of fixtures on a double game week, free hit's your guy to go to. So I understand if people had used their wildcard previously, like I know there's some people game week 2, game week 3, and now they're playing with like 5 players and they're like, okay, I need to use my free hit. I think that's kind of a toss-up. I would maybe be more inclined to make a -4 or a -8 to try and fill some of those slots. Yes, it's not going to get you up to a full starting 11, but you can focus on the positions that you really can get points out of. So like something like taking Salah out for somebody else. That would be where I think the ideal use of transfers and points rather than using your free hit in this current moment would be best. And I think, and I know a lot of content creators have also mentioned this, the wild card is still extremely powerful, but it's lost some of its uniqueness and flair because we have essentially a wild card in game week 16 that we're getting. So that's where I think a wild card is more acceptable if you have it and you need to bring in those players. If you don't have it, maybe take a couple hits and try and make up some points from there. I know hits are horrible, but still it might be the way to go. That's kind of where my thoughts land on the free hit versus wild card stuff. Let us know what you think down in the comments.
Yeah, and building on your point, Joe, actually using the transfers, kind of building on both points, mine and yours, using the transfers, even a -8 will give you a chance to kind of get the points back. Because if you free hit, it's just 1 game week thing. But if you take a -8 and bringing 4 players, let's say, and take you up to 9, 10 starting players, those players have the time to kind of get you those points hit, while the free hit will kind of not give you those players for following game week. So if you bring Mitrovic, you can keep him until game week 16, part of your -8. You bring whatever, like Trippier, you can keep him until game week 16, and those kind of players. So those players will kind of pay back their hits, But if you bring them this game week and they blank, that's it, it's gone, and you don't have them next game week where there's possibility that they return points. So building on those, my arguments and yours, I think yeah, the free hit should be saved. Yeah.
Yeah, taking a transition over to looking at our game week 18. We have my team right up on the screen here. As you can see, currently not too much has changed. There is one thing. I went Jesus to Mitrovic. I love my Nottingham Forest team. I love my man Henderson. Hopefully he can recover some save points. But let's be honest, their overall defensive line is pretty shaky, and Mitrovic loves scoring against literally anything that moves. So I had to bring him in. I know it's very much kind of in the template vein, but I've been meaning to bring him in for multiple game weeks just because I'm like, okay, Mitrovic is doing his thing. There was always another fire that I needed to put out, or other players that I felt had a bigger upside, where Mitrovic might get me 1 goal, these players might get me a couple assists, a couple goals, whatever it might be. So Mitrovic is in the team now. The one other thing is I have one more free transfer that I can use. And as you see, I don't have a full starting 11 as is. So I could bring in Nico Williams and just hang on to Salah. I don't think Nico's going to get me a ton of points, for being honest. Like I said, Nottingham Forest defense is a little bit leaky this year. My initial thought is maybe Salah to Son, who, yes, he's had a rough start. I love Son though. He's been, let me pull up the stats here for a second. His final third touches aren't super great compared to other options in the game. You're looking at 128 over the last 6 games. And his biggest thing is he's underperforming by 1.3 when we look at the XGI delta. So that is goals and assists minus the expected goal involvement. And then he's put 17 shots on goal. He's had seven on target. It's not falling for him. I don't know what it is. I tell you right now, as soon as he gets a goal, I think the lid's off. I think Son becomes unchained and he can't stop scoring. That's my actual thought. Yes, I could bring in KDB in the same position. It ties up a little bit more money, which if I did down to Son, I think I would have like 4 million in the bank. So there's a lot of other options I can do in upcoming weeks. The issue with bringing in KDB is I don't have faith that KDB and Holland are always going to be the link up. This is kind of where my mind is going right now. I could transfer out Gross. The issue with that is there's not a lot of players within the price range that I'm really interested in, especially this game week, upcoming game week. The other thing that I wanted to mention real quick is I do have Maddison playing in the team as it stands because he's playing against Tottenham. Tottenham will score 18 goals against Leicester. Let's be honest. Leicester can't stop the ball from going into the net. But additionally, Tottenham is great at letting 1 goal in because clean sheets aren't allowed at Spurs camp. Okay? That's how it feels. And if we're thinking about, okay, who can score those goals or who can assist those goals, Maddison's name is on one of the sides of it. So he'll at least hopefully get me some points. Doc, what do you think about the team?
Well, if I can make a suggestion, your team is almost the wild card that I'm trying to build. So I'm extremely jealous that you can do that, and you can start with an 11. Like looking at your team, you can start with an 11 with only this transfer, but you can make the team better. And I would like to make one suggestion. You can take out Gross because Gross has a blank and then has Liverpool away and then has Spurs at home. So 2 tough fixtures, and has Brentford away later, which is not the easiest fixture in the world. No Potter. So I think he's possibly you can get rid of him and bring Bowen. Bowen, let me tempt you here. I know you don't like going template. I know you like your Maverick choices, but Bowen is a differential if you think about it. He's owned by 3.2% only. I know he's all over Twitter, but he's only 3.2%. He's part of my wildcard team. He's a great punt. Some people are telling me not to bring him on the wild card, but I'm gonna resist it for some gut feeling. Watch the press conference today or tomorrow of David Moyes saying Bowen is injured or something. But I would bring Bowen in 3.2, possibly, probably on penalties as well.
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculously easy fixtures. A hold until even game week 16. He has, I think, Liverpool in the middle, but otherwise is a very nice fixtures. So I would suggest that, and it will leave you some money in the bank as well. It's not like you're tight on budget. So if I were you, I would just do Gross to Bowen.
That was kind of a thought that I had for Gross eventually, necessarily this game week. So I could see making the move on that. I still hang on to Salah. I'm not too worried about having Salah. I'm not too worried about having whoever. One thing I'll say, we've seen Liverpool's defense at the start of the season here. I'm not absolutely terrified unless it's Bournemouth. And even then, I'm not terrified of not having Salah because Salah can't score in a 9-0 game.
I do think with Fabinho being a bit more fitter now and Thiago being back,
Mm-hmm.
Matip being available, I think they're gonna get better. Probably the only way is up now. They've hit the bottom. They looked better in the Champions League last game, but I think it will get better with the fixtures as well. So I wouldn't discount Salah versus Brighton, who don't have Potter anymore. So
Yeah.
we'll get into my wildcard team and we're going to discuss about my plans to bring back Salah or Trent, but I think holding on to Salah is not a bad idea versus Brighton at least. Just see how he does versus Brighton. If he's not doing well, you can move him on. So I think Gross to Bowen really works perfectly for your team.
Yeah, and one more thing I want to jump on that you mentioned there is you talked about Fabinho and Thiago coming back. As I mentioned, in previous game weeks at the beginning of the season, they had a million injuries, and it felt like that was part of the reason why nobody was necessarily clicking. They played better in the Champions League this last game, and Thiago was back. So you're not making the worst point there, Doc. I completely get it because I've alluded to it in previous game weeks. So yeah. All right. So Doc, I have your team up on the screen right now. Mysteriously, all the players are covered except for your goalkeeper. Would you like to get into your team?
First player I put in, like, as soon as I pressed the button, was Pope because I think he's the best choice to go for currently. If I was to wildcard game week 9, I might give Guaita a look, but otherwise, I don't see any other option but Pope. He has the fixtures. He's behind one of the best defenses in the league. They do not concede chances, big chances a lot, and they get shot conceded from outside the box a lot. So it's good for Pope's save points. At this price, I got him in at 5.1. At this price, I think it's great. Moving on to the defense, I have Trippier, Cancelo, and Emerson. Again, I have two other on the bench you're going to see later on, but this is currently the setup that I have in my mind. Some players are subject to change, but I think I'm set on, let's say, 12 out of the 15. I'm set. Maybe three players will change before the deadline, depending on the FOMO, the news, the press conferences, more tinkering, more discussions. But I have tinkered enough to have like 12 absolutely set players. Trippier is there. He's on free kicks. He's set pieces. He's bonus magnet. He plays for a great defensively team and they have the fixtures. So I think Trippier is a no-brainer for me. Cancelo, we saw what he can do yesterday in the Champions League, and Emerson is a nice way to get into West Ham defense. He's one of the doubts in my team because Cresswell will be back soon. I don't know how soon, and I don't know how Emerson will react to Cresswell's return. Whether Cresswell will take his place or no. But my instinct is Emerson will probably hold his place. They bought him for, I think, 15 million. You wouldn't buy a player for 15 million if you just want to leave him on the bench. They have only the Conference League this year. They will probably prioritize the league unless they get to the latter stages of the Conference League. So I think Emerson might be a starter. I'm going to punt on him probably this game week versus Everton, who do not look great. Moving on to the midfield, I have Andreas, KDB, Martinelli, and Bowen. Bowen, Martinelli, Andreas are set in stone, and I have another player, the fifth one on the bench. You'll see it later. KDB can be someone else, which I will discuss once the whole team is revealed. Bowen, stats don't support this choice. So that's why Joe will probably go for him. But stats do not support this choice. But he was on penalty where all the players who were supposed to take a penalty for West Ham last European match, but Bowen took it nicely. Yes, only Lanzini is probably ahead of him in the pecking order when it comes to penalties, but Lanzini is rarely on the pitch. So 8.1 on penalties, beautiful fixtures. Bowen is in. Martinelli, the value is there. Andreas, the value is there. KDB is the debate one here. We're going to talk about it later. Moving on to the attack, kind of picks itself. Haaland, you cannot go without Haaland, especially on a wild card unless you're crazy. Mitrovic and Isak. Isak has the fixtures. He might be a punt. He can move to Tony later on. I can restructure a bit. He has nice stats, and they're playing Bournemouth. Moving on to the bench, I have Iverson, Nico Williams, Madison, and James. So you see a lot of money is on the bench because Madison has ridiculous fixtures coming on. James, I would love to have him. After watching the match yesterday in the Champions League under Potter, I think he's a must own at this point. Nico Williams, phenomenal enabler, easy games. I have Iverson on the bench because I should mention this team has the exact money to move KDB to Salah next game week. So this is one of the choices. It's not Ward, it's Iverson because I do have the exact money to move KDB to Salah. Now let me discuss before we can have Joe's input on the team. Let me discuss what I have in my mind, why the reason I went for this team and what can change. KDB can become someone else and Isaac becomes Harry Kane. The reason being is I don't see Salah. I need to decide if I want Salah for the next 3 game weeks or no. And I still haven't really decided. I'm leaning towards yes, but if I don't want him, he's not a captaincy option. So if I don't want Salah for the next 4 game weeks, Isaac becomes Harry Kane, target this Leicester, and he has nice fixture in game week 11. Game week 11, Liverpool are playing Manchester City. So Salah's not captainable, and Haaland is playing Liverpool, probably the toughest fixture he can have all season. So there's a chance for Harry Kane captaincy. He has an easy fixture, and then I can bring Salah later on. So that's one decision I need to make. The second decision is Trent Alexander-Arnold. I can bring Trent Alexander-Arnold now, put him on the bench instead of Emerson, and downgrade Bowen. So this is the second choice, but I don't think I will do that. I will deliberate that a lot tonight, but I don't think I will do that because I have just this gut feeling about Bowen. I'm ready to take the risk of not owning Trent, especially versus Brighton at home next game week. Joel, what do you think about this team?
Yeah, so the one thing that I want to mention is you mentioned about how James looks extremely enticing with Potter. I would agree. Potter loves his wingers there, as long as it's not Cucurella. Still, I stand by that statement. He hates Cucurella. But the one thing that I think every FPL manager should keep track of is Sterling, actually. Because in the Champions League, Sterling was the highest player on average on the pitch. That's going to lead to a ton of goals. If he just sits up there, he's playing Holland ball, essentially. So I think Sterling is a sleeper, possibly, that we should keep on our radar. I'm not saying bring him in on wildcard, but I just wanted to make that statement known. I was actually thinking about the Harry Kane side of things before you had mentioned it. To have Harry Kane in your team, that's one of the struggles that I have. Is Harry Kane is, at least it feels like he's consistently outscoring Salah. He's a cheaper, better point getter right now. I think that's a really interesting move. I mentioned I don't have a ton of faith on KDB getting a ton of points with Haaland. I think there is a connection there, but I don't think it's going to be anything like Son and Kane of years past. I think it's a pretty solid team put together. There's definitely some players in there that I was thinking about getting. I mentioned, Bowen was a future transfer that I was looking at. Maybe I'll get him this week. They are playing Everton. Andreas Pereira, I'd love to do that instead of De Silva. Your back line, I think, is really interesting. Trippier, yeah, he's great. Cancelo, fantastic. Looks like he's starting to find his form. Emerson, everybody's bringing him in. I feel indifferent. I don't really have one way or another that I feel about having Emerson, but I think it's a solid team that you have here. I'm sure you're going to get 1,000,000 points this week. Thank you for bringing in Madison. I know more people are bringing in Madison now, but I have had Madison since the beginning of the game.
Well, 2 points I want to address here regarding Sterling. I think it's a phenomenal shout. He just has this awkward price point. So it's like right in the middle. He's not like in the 8.0 midfielders and he's not like absolute premium. So he's in this awkward price point. But I absolutely love that shout. Again, I just want to reiterate the idea that we live in a kind of a Twitter bubble. Yes, everybody's bringing in Emerson. Would you like to guess what's his ownership?
His ownership is going to be 6.3%.
Right. At the moment is 1.6%.
Yeah, close. That's
Yeah,
that's
quite
the
close.
American tax. I'm not good with numbers.
Well, as you can see, so it feels like everybody's bringing him in. But again, he's a risk. So I'm not sure if I'm bringing him in, but not everybody's bringing him in. So he's a great differential to have with those fixtures for 4.0 defender who's possibly playing as a wing back for West Ham. I just wanted to address those 2 points.
Yeah, no, I agree, and very much so. We are in the Twitter bubble, and the Twitter bubble is sometimes 3%, sometimes 1%, sometimes 100%. So, Doc, anything else you'd like to mention on your team here?
I wanted to give an advice to kind of our audience. Number one, if you're wildcarding, do not forget to press the wildcard button right now. Just do not forget it because it's quite possible that people forget it. It happens every season. People just do the transfers trying to kind of, let's say, manipulate the price changes. But when you press the wildcard, some people just forget it and just end up with a minus 50 entering the game week. So this is the main kind of advice I want to give out.
Yeah, and don't wait till the last 10 minutes of the deadline because I can tell you, I'm pretty sure the app and the website will crash within those last 5 or 10 minutes. So just do it now, just to be safe. All right, everybody. So, recapping. Lackluster game week 7. Interesting captaincies. Kind of based for the most part, but interesting nonetheless. Free hit versus wildcard. You got our thoughts on it. Hey, it's up to you. It's your team. Make sure you like, you subscribe, comment down below, share with your friends, your family, everybody. Let's get some views. And most of all, let's get some points. Doc, anything you'd like to say signing out?
Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see everybody on the next episode.
All right. Peace, everyone.